All right, Brother Grayson, I misunderstood. You are on deck. If you want to share your testimony, bro, loud and proud.
I just had to go to another room. Give me a second. Yes, I've never shared my testimony before on TikTok. This would be my first time. So I'll
Wow,
try to
we're
be
honored, brother.
listen.
We're all
Yeah,
here for
glad you're
you.
sharing it with us. Glory to God. Thank you.
I'll make,
Amen.
I'll make sure it's not too long. So it's kind of got like three parts.
Bro, we got nothing but time for you tonight. I'd extend the live just for this.
All right, brother. I kind of like gave it a title, Still Standing, a Lost Son Return. This is the full testimony of me, Grayson Wolf. So part one is called Groton to Juvenile Life. I was born in Groton, Connecticut in 1982 to two Navy parents. My older brother came first. He was born in 1978. From the jump, our family was fractured. My father told us that my mom once left a note on my brother saying, "Take this little effort. I don't want him." And she basically left him on my dad's doorstep. My dad believed that I was truly his son, and that maybe my brother had come from an affair when he was out to sea. But we don't have confirmation on that. I know that as he got older, he looked more like this guy that my dad knew. So that's what gave him suspicions. But he always treated him like his own son. Um, Let me see. Unfortunately, like even though he accepted my brother, that one kind of shaped how he viewed everything, and viewed how like his mother felt for him. So he kind of carried that weight like his whole life. My brother. My dad's father actually left him and his four siblings behind when they were little kids. And I think what that did was it created a lifeline drive, to provide like him, like to be a provider for his family. But he wasn't really present because he was always out to sea. And even when he got out of the Navy, he took a job where he was constantly on the road. So he was always a good provider. But as far as like having that, fatherly example, that never really existed for us. I grew up mostly with my mom and my stepdad. I didn't even know I had a real father. I thought my stepdad was my real dad until I was right around the age of 12. But those years, they weren't peaceful. I mean, I ran away often. I drank, smoked, I hung out, with the wrong crowd like we all do when we're rebellious and young. We weren't gangbangers, but we were reckless. We were bored, broken, kids. I ended up in a mental hospital when my mom was still alive. She had me go to a hospital because she was concerned about me. So I was just real rebellious. And it ended up maxing out her insurance. So I really couldn't stay that long. I think I was there for like maybe a month, and it maxed out her insurance real quick. I used to run away a lot, always wanted to be independent. Remember one time I ran away, and it was, in Connecticut, they get snow, it's cold. And I ran away in the winter, and I talked my friend into running away. And we had a tent and everything, and I ended up catching like hypothermia when I was on the run. My stepfather, he tried to be a good father. But when you don't know how to heal, discipline can kind of turn into damage. At 12 years old, I stole his car. I led state troopers on a high-speed chase, not once, but twice. I remember hiding the clothes that I wore that night in a bag underneath my bed. I put them in a garbage bag, and the next morning, my mom was standing over top of me with an officer, and she's like, "What did you do?" She just had this look of disappointment. Not too long after that, my mom got sick. All of a sudden, it just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was actually the one that called 911. Yeah, she got so sick, I had to call the ambulance, and she was in the hospital. She went to the hospital. I think I saw her once, but I was still trying to be independent, being rebellious, wanting to party with friends. And she stayed in the hospital for about a week before she passed away. My stepfather tried to distract me with a road trip to keep my mind off of it. The reason that I found my real father, I mean, not the reason, but the way that I found him was there was a black book that was in my mom's purse, and I was going through her purse after she died to or unalived. That way I could contact family members. And I actually contacted my aunt in Greater Fort Worth, Texas. And she's like, Grayson, is this you? She's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's you. And she had my dad's number, you know? And so that's how I got in contact with my dad. My dad came up from Virginia because he was stationed in Norfolk. And him and my brother came up for the funeral. And it was awesome to see them and to know that, like, wow, like I had this father that I didn't really know about, you know? Because my mom, you know, kept him, like, she kept him, she kept that side of the family, you know, away from me. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and proud, brother.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because it had the screen on. I want to make sure that y'all can hear everything. They went back to Virginia, and I didn't know he was going to try to fight for custody of me. If I would have known that, I probably wouldn't have done what I did. But like I said, my stepfather tried to distract me with the road trip, but we got into it. You know, he hit me again, and I had enough. I had enough of the physical abuse, and I ended up taking his car again, and I got into a high-speed chase. Again, this time I ended up hitting a guardrail and flipping the car, and you know, I thought I was going to be stuck with this guy who beat me, you know, so I stole his car again. I took a friend. We tried to run to Massachusetts, another high-speed chase. I was 12, crashed the car into a guardrail, ended up in a ditch. Cop slammed me into the patrol car because he threw me on the hood, and it was hot from chasing me. I was doing like over 100 miles an hour. And he's like, where's your license and registration? And I was like, I'm only 12. So he got mad, and he hit my head against the window, put me in the cop car. And basically they put me in a group home for like a week. My stepfather came to the state police department. They were interrogating me. I didn't want to tell him anything, and finally I told them, and that's when they were able to get a hold of him. And he came and he sat across from me, looked me in my face, and says, I disown you. I don't want nothing to do with you. And so they put me in a YMCA group home. I stayed there for about a week, and I didn't know my dad was coming to get me. You know, my father showed back up in his uniform. We stayed in Connecticut for a few days because I had court, you know, for all those charges. And the judge, he copped us a deal. He basically said that if I left the state and I never came back, that they would drop all the charges. So, like, at 12 years old, I was exiled from Connecticut. I moved to Hampton, Virginia with a fresh start, you know, like, but not really. Part 2 is like from violent shame and losing Cody to the edge of surrender. In Virginia, I didn't slow down. I sped up. I ran through probation, detention centers, group homes, house arrest. I went to some more crazy hospitals just because of, like, you know, wanting to unalive, like when I was locked up. By 17, I stood in front of a judge that I'd seen way too many times, and he looked at my father and he said, "So you're still wasting money on this one, huh?" And then he turned to me and he said, "If you come back before me again, I'm going to give you juvenile life." And juvenile life at that time was like till you're 21 years old. I got caught up with a possession charge at school, and I got scared. You know, I ran again. This time I ran back to Connecticut, the very state that I was banned from, because at 17, you know, you're legally considered an adult. So I was like, okay, you know, it's far away from Virginia. I can be an adult. Like, I don't have to get emancipated. So I didn't care about the consequences, you know. I hooked up with some old friends and found out real quick that they were caught up with a gang there called 20 Love. I didn't know that, you know, but hanging out with them, they kind of got me involved in some stuff, you know, that night. You know, I didn't belong to that. You know, I was being hunted over a lie that my friend had said. I had them chasing me everywhere, following me everywhere I went. You know, I was living in paranoid. It sucked. You know, I bounced from bed to bed, girl to girl, sin to sin. I mean, I was 17, dating a woman that was 20 years older than me. No, not really dating, but messing around with a woman that was 20 years older than me. She's the one that actually helped me get away. But I mean, I lied to her too about my age. So it was a two-way street. My parents were like, "Oh, we need to press charges." This and that. I'm like, "Look, I lied to her about my age too. I take accountability for my part." Um, so I was just masking my pain. And then came my firstborn son, Cody Bryant. Um, I've been a huge fan of Kobe Bryant, and we couldn't decide on a name, so I named him Cody Bryant, and that's where he got his name from. Um, his mother and I had already kind of failed to make it work many times. I mean, when she got pregnant, I really wanted to step it up, but I didn't know how. Her family let me stay with them. Her dad pushed me into the Newport News shipyard, Northrop Grumman, but I wasn't ready. I skipped training. I go to the bathroom because I was doing welding. I hated it. It wasn't for me. It wasn't what I wanted to do. It was just I was trying to, I guess, live her dad. Live my ex's dad's. Live through his footsteps, and it just didn't work out for me. So I got kicked out of school, and instead of owning it, I got angry. One night, my ex and I got in a fight, and she was hitting me while I was feeding my son, and I told her to stop, and I pushed her, and I didn't realize when I pushed her, I pushed her kind of hard, and she hit the door, and she got mad. She snatched my son out of my hands and took off, and so I chased her down, and her sister pulled up and punched me through the window, and I snapped and I grabbed her and just held her in the air, and I didn't hit her. I was just it was like I almost blacked out, and it's the adrenaline and everything that was going on. And at that point I just snapped, and I just broke. And I told my ex, I said, if I can't have you, then no one can. And I tried to unalive myself right in front of them as they were taking off. So, at this point they probably thought I was crazy, and I'm laying in the street, I have blood, and my dad comes out there because of all the commotion, and he kicks the blade through. He kicks it over into the gutter, and he says, "Get up, man." He's like, "What?" He's like, "What the heck's wrong with you?" And so when he did that, I got up, but I wasn't free. I went to her cousin's house where we were drinking, and I just wanted to see my son. And he said, "You need to come by here when you're sober." Eventually, I got put on child support. I numbed the pain, with drinking, with drugs, with women. I mean, I felt empty. And I met this girl online. She was just a friend, and she lived in Texas. And her and her family helped me move because she's like, "Well, why don't you move to Texas?" And I was like, "Well, that's not a bad idea." I was like, "Because I do have family members in Texas, and that'd probably be good for me to get away from all of this, And her mom actually paid for the ticket. I stayed with them for a little while. I moved to Fort Worth. It was White Settlement, they called it. And when I was there, my aunt came from. She lives in Greater Fort Worth, Hollyville area, it's a real rich area. She wasn't always like that, but they worked their butt off to get where they were. She brought me to a mansion compared to what I knew. It was like Fresh Prince of Bel Air. And so when I moved in with her, I started working, and I don't even know how many jobs I had that year. I had so many jobs that one year, just because I couldn't find what I wanted to do, And I've always been the kind of person that likes to float, I have to constantly be doing different things in order for it to be interesting to me. If I just do the same thing over and over, I get too bored with that. So I started working. I was working at this Lifetime Fitness, really nice high-end fitness center. I was working there, and then I started working at this really nice grocery store called Market Street. And they had a gourmet side. They had a food service, Epicurean, deli, all that. And that's where I actually met my wife. When I met her, she played hard to get, and that was good for me because I was so used to just everything being easy. I actually had to work for the relationship. That really helped me a lot. And within a week we moved in together. And I've always been a chef. I've always known how to cook and loved to cook. And when I first moved in, she didn't have anything in there, maybe some frozen stuff, and that was it. She was single. You know how it is when you're single. It's kind of on the go, and but think about. Okay, so from there, she got pregnant, not even like within a year, and then we got married, and it's been 19 years now since July 24th. We just had our anniversary, so it's been 19 years. Unfortunately, Texas, it didn't fix me, when I first came here, because I hadn't completely surrendered. I mean, I knew of God, I felt Him, but I hadn't yielded. That changed when we went to this church in Watauga, Texas. It was a pastor. His name was Steve Boss. We had heard about him and like awesome things going on at this church. And I went up because he did an altar call, and I did complete surrender. I mean, I surrendered everything. And in that moment that I did that, and he laid hands, my legs, they gave out. My body shook. I mean, I was on the floor. The Holy Spirit hit me like it was like electricity, like fire, and like peace. Like all in one. And I felt the joy of the Lord in that moment. Right? It was like the best drug, like on the face of the earth. Like if I could have that nonstop all the time, like how I felt it in that moment, man, I would love that. We experienced like gold dust at that church. We experienced like oil coming out of Bible, like Bible's weeping, like just true revival fire, like up in there, And it wasn't the place, I don't want people to confuse revival because, a lot of times we think, oh, there's revival going on over here. We need to go over here. And revival, that's not where it starts. Revival starts in our heart. It starts in our heart posture, I'm trying to think where I'm at. It wasn't religion. It was real. I mean, that was real. I had gone to churches. My mom was struggling when she was alive, taking me to all these different churches, and she could never find, like, her home. And, but, even then I still messed up. Even after experiencing all that, I still let pride speak louder than obedience. Still, hurt my wife through selfishness. But the fire had been lit inside me. God was calling me to change. And then here's the last part. This one is part 3. I should be unalived, but I'm alive to tell it. I should be unalive, but God never used my past to disqualify me. He used it to call me deeper. Even after I got married, I carried baggage. I hadn't buried the old me until I let God cut the chains. I kept dragging that same weight. I blamed everyone, my dad, my past, my wife, but I was still trying to run my life with one hand on the wheel and then the other, on fake surrender. And then it all came crashing down. My son Caleb turned 18 and he wanted to move out. And I was like, hey, that's fine, and we had it all set up for him to move out. He kept procrastinating on packing and he had laundry. It was like to the ceiling. I'm like, dude, we'll take you over here to this laundromat, and give you some money. You can knock it out. And so I went over there to take him to go do his laundry, dropped him off there. And he was supposed to, this was on a Thursday. He was supposed to leave Friday. My aunt was going to come get him from Dallas, Fort Worth. And we went to go check up on him because he said he was done with the laundry, and he put a basket of laundry in the back of my car. And then when we pulled up, my aunt was there. And like, it's like 5 or 6, it's like 5 hours, I think, from where we're at, from Dallas, Fort Worth. And so we were just surprised to see her, The laundromat was like literally 3 blocks away from my house. He jumped in the car with them, and we followed them back to our house, and we didn't know what was going on. We were confused. And when we pulled up to my house, there's 2 police cars waiting outside. Right? So I get out the car and I ask them, hey, what's going on? Like, can I help you guys? And they're like, are you Grayson? I'm like, yeah. Oh, they're like, oh, we're just here to keep the peace. I mean, I'm like, what do you mean keep the peace? Like, what are you talking about? Oh, well, your son's, they said that your son is trying to move out and you guys are keeping him from moving out. I'm like, no, he's supposed to move tomorrow. Like, I don't know what y'all are talking about, And, yeah, it was just real unclear, all I know is he took off that day. My aunt didn't even say a word to me. She just sat in the car. And my uncle was like, I'm so sorry. And I was mad. I was mad in that moment because, it was like I felt betrayed and I felt lied to, because we had made plans for him to leave, like on Friday. and nobody was trying to prevent him from moving. He was the one that had all these obligations here that he needed to take care of before he left. And everybody was trying to rush him to go to Dallas. And I'm just like, look, he needs to honor his obligations. So then, not too long after that, the timing belt starts to act up on my car, right on my 300. I'm a delivery driver. I mean, no car, no income. I called this mechanic that I knew that was a mobile mechanic, and he's like, well, I'm real booked right now. He's like, but if you want to bring the car over, you can work on it at my house. And he had like a shop at the house, right? So I didn't have any contract with him or anything. It was just him helping me out. And I had to borrow somebody's car to get over there, but I had to return it. And so I told him it might be a little while before I can get back over here. And he's like, that's fine. Just, let me know. And so like over 30 days had gone by. And I called him and I said, hey, I got a tow truck driver. I'm going to get the car, from your house and bring it to my house. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm putting mechanic's lien on it and I'm going to charge you storage. And I'm like, what? Like the betrayal, like snapped something inside of me in that moment. Because at that time I was vaping and I was smoking pre-rolls, like 98%, like TH, and my mind was clouded. I was always lying to myself, like, oh, I need this, like this makes me better. This makes me more creative. But it was just always excuses, like the flesh will always make excuses. But when we actually, step into the Holy Spirit, when we surrender to him and allow him to come and work into our lives, he empowers us and gives us courage and gives us strength, and he helps to like embolden us, and that's what happened in that moment, because they were trying to like, steal my car. Man, I went all out. I drafted up a certified letter. I sent it to them. I went to the sheriff. I did everything, right? And they finally contacted me and said, oh, well, we spoke with our attorney and our insurance company and they said, we're going to have to let the car go. I'm like, yeah, you're going to have to let the car go because y'all didn't have any, like, there was no, like, we didn't agree on work on the car or anything. So that was the moment that really, like, brought me back to God, because I was just sick and tired of, like, things like that happening in my life and, like, me not doing anything about it or fearing man. It rose something up inside of me and it made me want to fight back, And so as I did that, I didn't want comfort. I wanted the kingdom, not the gifts. I want the giver, the giver that gives the gifts, because I've been caught up in that before too. Like, oh, I want this gift and I want that gift. Or even when that gold dust stuff was happening, man, I was getting more focused on this gold dust than I was on God. And it was a distraction, because it's like, he doesn't want that. He wants us to seek him, with all of our hearts, because it's then when we seek him with all of our hearts that he will reveal himself to us, So I quit vaping, I quit smoking, I quit drinking. I said, God, look, I'm not playing anymore. I'm diabetic. I even got to the point where I came up with a plan, and I said, you know what, God, if I'm going to truly honor your vessel, then I need to honor what I put into this vessel. Because, a lot of diseases come from the stomach. They come from the things that we eat. So I got real disciplined about that too. Got off metformin. I'm taking supplements. I was fasting last week, and it kind of threw me off. And so I plan on getting back on track on Monday. I have a plan for that, and actually another plan to fast. I began to pray, fast, worship, seek. I declared, like I said, this temple belongs to you. I started calling out generational curses, the generational consequences that came, from all of that stuff. I'm dealing with it now, for the wages of sin are unalivement, I've been judged, I've been misunderstood, but I've also felt the glory. I've seen the Bible's leak oil. I felt the Holy Spirit shake my body and speak to my soul. I've lost a lot of time. I've lost a lot of money. I've lost a lot of relationships, but one thing that I haven't lost is my faith. Jesus never gave up on me. And I made a song about that called Pure as Gold. In the chorus, I say, when I lost his love, when I lost his love, when I lost his love. And then I'm like, I never lost his love, because I never lost it. It was always there. you know, and even with all these people, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you, bro.
Okay, okay,
I don't
and
think
even with all
Norman
these,
knows that he's unmuted.
okay, and even like losing, like, so I've lost like my biological mother, I lost my mother-in-law to ovarian cancer, and then I lost last year I lost my stepmother. So I've lost like every mother I've ever had. Um, my stepfather, like, he tried, but like I said, he was abusive. And then my dad was never really a dad. Like, he was there financially. So, you know, I got to a point where I felt so broken. And, you know, and I just felt like God was saying, look, I've always been here for you. I've always been your father, you know? And I'm trying to come into that, you know, to break those generational curses, you know? I've surrendered. I'm not perfect, but I'm purpose driven. You know, I'm not who I was. I'm not who I'm gonna be yet. I'm still becoming. You know, becoming the man that God wants me to be. Becoming the husband that He wants me to be. Becoming the father that He wants me to be. You know, I'm rebuilding this temple brick by brick, and I won't stop until, like, I'm consumed by the fire of God. You know, that's my testimony. I mean, not because I got it all together, but because, you know, I finally laid it all down, and now I live to help others do the same through everything that I've been through. I don't. I used to have regrets, but I don't regret any of it anymore, because I know that God allowed me to go through all of those situations and all of those circumstances so that I could be a powerhouse for somebody one day, you know, so that I could bring them back to God, or even show them God if they don't know who God is, you know. I mean, I don't want applause. I want an altar, you know, like, I don't need a stage. I need surrender. I'm not chasing these platforms. I'm chasing presence. And, you know, I always say this: let the smoke of my pain become incense in heaven, you know. But yeah, that's my testimony. I could probably go on longer with it, but yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. I typed it up earlier just because I'm like, man, there's so much that's gone on in my life. You know, it's like, how do I fit all this into a testimony that I can share where it's not like a book, you know? But
Yeah,
yeah, that's
well,
my
you know,
testimony.
you're putting your whole life into, you know, a few words, brother, and so I'm just honored that you shared, and thank you for that. Thank God for rock bottom, right? And
Yeah, man.
His promise to use all things together for good for those that love Him and are called according to His purposes. But you know that no temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man. But God is faithful. He will not allow
Amen.
you to be tempted beyond what you are able, and with the every temptation will make a way of escape that you would be able to bear it. And brother, you chose the way of escape, and I am so proud of you. And thank you for sharing that. What an encouragement.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I was gonna end the live in a couple of songs, and so I'm gonna stick to that. I'll play a couple more songs, and then I'll end the live. I've got one up, and if you want to hear something special, just put it in the chat.